Hi folks, welcome to Mark 2.0. I'm Mark, how you doing? Alright, people have been asking me to start doing my own verse looking up after other people's pages, etc. Even though that's where at least the startings of some of the better stuff is, and it's relaying the information others have done that actually make this work. So I'm going to give you my synopsis of Oathkeepers. And when I say Oathkeepers, I mean the organization and not the movement. I mean the physical organization. Okay, I think it's a Patriot Psyop, I really do. For the Tea Party movement in 2004-2008, leading to big, long, conventions of veterans and everything, to that fusing down to the Bundy Ranch and Oregon thing, I have my reasons to believe that this is at least partly government associated. And let me go into it. Now understand, I'm not that stupid. I know each county has their own Oath Keepers. I know each state has their own organization. And that it's not just, oh well, it's Bundy Ranch and it's Oregon. I know that they get volunteers from the veteran community and everybody else, from the police, from the military, and others that do these events, and they're not paid, and they do rallying events, and they were at Ferguson to a limited amount, and they champion in the background. I completely understand that 100%. But I have my reasons to believe that the organization is a government hype on the other side of the coin. Whether or not it's meant to be or not, that is what I believe it is. I believe it's an extended Tea Party group, and the same organizers of the government that are behind the Tea Party, I guarantee you, are in the background of the Oath Keepers. And when I say Oath Keepers, I do not mean the actual Oath Keepers. I mean the organization. Many of the things associated with Oath Keepers seem to be very congruent with the events of ISIS, with Snowden, with Ferguson, with Bin Laden, and many other questionable situations that everybody's put out there. My first big notice is going to be that the National Guard and the Army haven't actually ever shown up. This is my biggest frickin' problem with these guys doing these Bundy Ranches and sugar mining company stuff. I mean, a couple of riots in Missouri and the National Guard shows up. You get 800, veterans with guns to stand off federal BLM, and the National Guard and the federal government don't show up with, like 1,800 guys to push them out. I'm sorry, I'm not fucking buying it. I mean, there doesn't seem to be any major buildup of federal forces in Oregon right now. They didn't do shit at Bundy Ranch for some reason. It's almost like the government steps in just enough to say, okay, BLM, here's your role, play it out, and be done. And Oath Keepers, here's your role, play it out and be done. And you have guys with guns, and not a single misfire has ever happened. Not a single round has gone down range in, like, 2 different events. And most are saying that they don't even believe the BLM, when they get there, even have ammo. I know that's probably not true. But it's coming down to a point, folks, where, when these guys get back from these major campaigns, there's no seizure of property, there's no detention for these patriots. That right there should be sending red flags all the way up the ladder. I mean, that's like the identities of the ISIS commanders and stuff. That's like red flagged in every major country. Like red flag, like top secret and everything else, and it's on a need to know basis and all this other hype stuff. And I don't know about you folks, but I'm on the side that these guys are good guys, but I'm just trying to bring it out to you that it seems like the other side of the coin, basically. And yes, you always need a good guy to defeat a bad guy, but sorry, folks. Two different group organization campaigns in April, back to back. Not really buying it here, folks. The hype kind of seems government funded and with no government response. And the big thing is no government response. I can't even put this on paper enough to tell you how much I think this is just in the background. Just some senators just paying the bills forward for these events to transpire. I mean, there's a there's a kid that dies in Missouri, and you know, everybody flips out like crazy, and the National Guard are on the ground. Yet the BLM try to come in and to seize a property, and there's no National Guard when guys with guns show up. I'm sorry, I don't buy it. I mean, the only thing I can really consider at this point is that if they're not bought out at the senior level, which I look at as like the administrative, like the senatorial, basically the Senate, the Congress that actually funnel down to the business owners of this organization, then basically what it has to be is they have to be going along with something that allows these guys to keep doing this, and that isn't being acknowledged. It isn't just the Constitution, it isn't just the veterans doing this. I mean, if you look at half the pictures on the internet, folks, it looks like it's right out of a movie, like it's filmed just for that. You look into the background of Bundy Ranch, that was supposed to be really hyped up differently. People on the ground were saying all kinds of different things. How it was fake and everything. I mean, sorry folks, I'm not buying this whole, there's been 2 major campaigns and nobody's got shot yet. I'm not buying this, folks. Now, would I go down to Oregon? Yes. But I don't. Here's my thing. I'm going to say it again because I can't believe that our government, being as weird as it is right now, allows this to happen without putting federal troops on the ground in like a couple hundred or a couple thousand strong to push these guys out. That is my biggest reason for this to be a giant psyop. I mean, you would think by now, if this was a concern of any magnitude, that there would be build up of federal forces that would swat these guys out. They would be arrested, some would be wounded, they'd be taken to hospitals, they'd be detained, it would be over. This has not happened, folks. It seems like they have limited function, seem to come out every once in a while and then go into hiding, and only basically come out when they're needed. Now, again, I'm not talking about the Oathkeepers as in the police and the military that take the oath. I'm talking about the organization. I think it's a giant psyop for veterans. I really do. It's one of these super companies like Google and stuff like that. Like Blackwater was funded, basically, you know? It's like one of the big companies that come out only when they're needed. And this idea that, you know... one second, let me look at my notes. You know, this idea that... You know, this idea that they seem to work for large conglomerates really kind of puzzles me too. Because it almost seems like somebody in the background is paying for this, but nobody in the volunteer section is getting money. Now, I don't want to say they're getting paid in the administrative, but it seems that these guys are only working for the big-time conglomerates. And while they might not be big in media, one's a mining company that has millions, and one's a rancher that had millions. Or at least at one point would have had millions. I know these guys were on the ground in Ferguson for a little while, but everything just seems too clean, folks. It seems so clean that the U.S. government doesn't even want to put National Guard along the perimeter to close it off and say, okay, look, here's what's going to happen. I mean, somebody gets shot in Missouri, they do some riots, and the police come out with their military vehicles, and then they bring in the National Guard. But here, some conglomerate gets in trouble, and these guys come with guns, and the National Guard and the federal government doesn't send, like, waves of Abrams and drones in the air. I'm sorry, folks, I'm not fucking buying it. I mean, I'm not former military, I'm not former police. I imagine I'll probably be police at some point or another. In my late 30s or 40s or something. But right now, I gotta tell you, maybe it's just the way it's presented in the media, but it looks like a ruse. It really does. Looks like somebody's paying these guys in the administrative level to say, okay, here's your action, here's your pause, here's your start, here's your end, and here are your lines. Go! And I don't know. I've seen a lot of things starting to develop online that, some people are actually starting to talk about this being, a big thing in the background. These guys have these sheriffs and stuff that are coming out talking about it. They have these congressmen that come out and talk, but they're never really, they never really come out for anything. And the biggest thing is if this was not a government hype, the United States government should be shitting their pants, and they should have guys on the ground ready to squash this and swat them out. And it only seems like these guys are out for the big-time conglomerates. And maybe it's just because of the land, but I'm just thinking, what's going on with this? And I know one of our contacts, Leon Oathkeepers, is going to probably go nuts, but I'm not really talking about the Oathkeepers themselves. I'm talking about the organization. And just so much... I don't know if it's that there's so much limited media coverage of the Oathkeepers. I don't know if it's that everybody pretty much believes they're a rent-a-patriot company. Anything happens, they do a few rallies, a few marches, and then, once a year they come and they do a standoff like this. I mean, that's pretty much what they're known for. It doesn't seem like rounds are going to go down range anytime soon. It seems like people are keeping that shit, together. And how that's even possible in these kind of situations, I don't know, folks. So, somebody wanted me to do one on my own without anything in the background. Here it is. This is mine. I made this up. I put my notes together. Let's see here if I can do this real quick. Here's some of my notes from my notepad that I wrote. Here's this right here. Okay, Oathkeepers is government-run company the government can exploit. It's a Psyop for upper-level Tea Party Patriot support. The claims to be an organization to support and defend the Constitution of the United States, especially the Fifth Amendment. There have been major campaigns where militia were sent patriots with guns against armed federal agents, and no bullets have gone down range. How do you figure that if it's not a PSYOP? No misfires, no accidental discharges, nobody getting shot. And how many more of these are going to happen until the government basically says shoot them or swat them out? Bundy Ranch Sugar Mining Company. I think I have this wrong. I think this should be 14, but I apologize for that. It only seems to be active for so long, meets acting requirements, and vanishes. None of the sides seem overtly hostile toward each other enough to have even fired warning shots. Militia and people on the ground seem to be not going off the designated areas. And basically, it's just ridiculous. I mean, it's like all the other ruse stories we've heard. The Snowden, the Ferguson, the Osama bin Laden. You know, it's set up the same way. An event happens, there's an item or person which needs attention, the attention is given, the attention in question fuses out, then another one comes up. Until it's no longer needed, then they kill them off or whatever. And basically, like I said, federal authorities aren't doing shit. Not a single one of these guys that show up are getting DUIs or getting detained and questioned and stuff. And basically, it's just one of those things you kind of go, well, this is too clean.